But before then, we've got a very special guest on the line. Less than a week since winning the Kingwell Hurdle. We will come to that. Joe Tizzard, thank you very much indeed for taking time out of your Friday. How do we find you? All well?
Yeah, good, Nick. Thank you. Good evening. Not long back from Exeter, actually.
Good. That's not too far. Now, I must ask your opinion, once you've kindly hung up the phone to us in a few minutes' time, you're going to be watching Southwell, aren't you?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm not going to miss it.
What do you think? You know, Paul Nicholls has been, saying that maybe it's much ado about nothing. There's a fair buzz about it in a lot of quarters. There was that great Willie Won't He run. Some people were saying he should have run in the Kingwell Hurdle, which you, of course, were the winner of. What do you think Constitution Hill is now, if you see what I mean?
Well, honestly, I'd love to see him in a champion hurdle. It's in the world we live in, it's not a straightforward decision, but I would love to see him in a champion hurdle. I'd love it to be that if Nicky and Michael Buckley decided they were happy for him to run, they wouldn't. There wouldn't be any backlash or what ifs. But it's nice to see the horse on the track again tonight, obviously. But that's my honest opinion.
Would you have been quite happy? I'm talking about some of the superstars back in the day, Q-Card, Thistlecrack, Native River, perhaps a little bit more the first two, but would you have been happy to go down this route and find a 40 grand race on the flat? Had an opportunity presented itself and had one of those horses been in a similar situation?
Nick, if I had a horse that could be at Southwell tonight, I'd be running it at Southwell tonight. As simple as that. This race is, been put on. It's a good turnout. It was never going to be a walkover for him. Everybody was always going to have a go and take part. And it's good that the race is put on for racing and for Constitution Hill and that. But it's and like I said, if I had one, I'd be running it.
Okay, say no more. You did have one for the Kingwell, and he won that. I was quite impressed with Alexei. He's around about a 20-to-1 shot. There's only sort of 5 or 6 in front of him, including Constitution Hill, for the Kingwell, for the Champion Hurdle, I should say. So what, nearly a week since this day. How is he, and how have you reflected on it?
Yeah, he's a good Nick. I actually think he's improved for this Kingwell run. He hadn't run since before Christmas, and with targets outside of the Kingwell, it was always the plan to go there. But on hard ground, Brendan, the first thing he said to me, he goes, "I would have loved it to have had a shower of rain. Would have made the ground at Wincanton a lot easier." But he, went through the race well. Dossed a little bit coming to the last, but then I thought he'd done it well enough. His first time in that sort of company, a step up for him. Did it as we could have hoped. It doesn't really change things going to Cheltenham. I think he's the type of horse that can travel into a champion hurdle, but we'll find out. We'll find out whether he's good enough in just under 3 weeks' time.
Joe Martin here. We're just watching the closing stages. He definitely looked around after the last, coming into the last. He was looking at the crowd and running around a little bit. How do you think he'll handle Cheltenham with there'll be a bigger crowd than there was at Wincanton?
Yeah, he has won a Great Wood at Cheltenham, so I think he was having a good old look on Saturday. Well, he certainly did it last. Yes, he did it at Ascot and possibly Cheltenham a little bit first time, but he's the sort of horse that Brendan said as soon as he got after him, he was straight back where he wanted him. And you don't mind a horse that, the more you ask, the more they give. I prefer that than he was throwing it all away mid-race, and he's won a Great Wood on a big day at Cheltenham. That's not a concern of mine, really.
You rode Q-Card, we'll come to that, to win the champion bumper by 8 lengths. He was electric speed. He was very fast. I know he stayed very well later in his career. Thistlecrack was no slouch, but just as regards sort of natural speed, where is Alexei in the pecking order of horses that you've had?
He's quick. We've never had a real competitive 2-mile handicap hurdler. And he actually won over 2.5 at Taunton last year in novice company. But Brendan said to me in the autumn, he said this horse has gained a gear for whatever reason. So I think he proved it in his handicaps. And even when he got beat at Ascot, he travelled so well into the race. you can put him where you want, and I think he's got enough toe to be able to travel anywhere in Grade 1 company, and that's why I think he'll be able to travel down the hill and get the position that we need. Then it's whether he's good enough, and that is the question. I think he's earned his right in the race, but I'm not the one standing there saying we're the one to beat or anything like that. Crikey, no. I think
in your heart of hearts, though, do you think he is good enough?
I think he deserves his position in the race. I don't know.
We'll find out. Less than 3 weeks. Can I talk about? We've got other bits to get on with, and I want to talk about JPR One, who has been a tremendous horse for yourself, for your father, and of course John Romans, who's been a massive part of Team Tizzard over the years. How much satisfaction did Musselburgh give you? A
lot of satisfaction. Mainly because I talked John Romans out of running him the week before at Cheltenham. It's a long way for us to travel up to Musselburgh. A great pot. There's good prize money. That was incentive. But to talk people into doing it, and I thought that the race was just up his street, the good ground, and then he did it. Like the horse, he had a lot of weight. He was giving a lot of weight away, but he was the classiest horse in the race, and he did it like it. And I've been talking about stepping him up in triple season, and just one thing led to another. That he needed his first run in the Holden Gold Cup. Then he ran well at Ascot, and he ran very well with top weight at Cheltenham. So I was dying to step him up this year, and it came off. I mean, it'd have been a long way home if he'd have finished fourth.
He was your first runner at Musselburgh, wasn't he, Joe?
First time we'd ever been there, yeah. I never rode there. Had the opportunity at the end of my career to tick off all the boxes there, and Musselburgh and Hexham didn't get the call up. I'd got a bit long in the tooth by then.
Is he going to run in the Ryanair?
Yeah, that's the plan. We left him in both. Had a long chat with John. I think it was the Tuesday after we'd been to Musselburgh. We left him in both, but the step up and trip, we've tried in a Tingle Creek. We finished third, so we're not quite good enough. So we're gonna try it over an extended trip.
I want to move on to Cheltenham. You mentioned Cheltenham Trials Day, which was the week before Musselburgh. The final race, which has been so much talked of, not because of the performance of the winner, but because of the state of the ground or what went on, and also the photo finish and who actually won the race anyway. But Kripticjim did win. He's in a wonderful role at the moment. How good is this fella?
I don't know is the answer. He's done everything I've asked of him. Last year with Garth and Anne, they're very, very good patient owners. We took our time through bumpers, and this year, second behind a good mare at Chepstow, first time, won nicely at Ascot, went to Newbury and won with a penalty. And, it's difficult to win a novice at Newbury with a penalty. And I said straight away from there, we'll go to Trials Day. And he's actually improving all the time at home. He travelled as best he's ever travelled in a race this day at Cheltenham. He jumped super. And again, he's just a horse on the upward curve. He went up round our gallops this morning, actually, and he was fresh as paint and had his tail up in the air, and I'd never seen that side of him. So he's in good nick and he's improving.
Have you made a decision as to which race, assuming he goes there?
He'll go to Cheltenham. No, we haven't. He's done all his winning over 2.5. Ground will be a sort of deciding factor. We've talked about it, but we're not making a decision yet. Simple as that.
Could he be even better over further, Joe? I mean, he that blundered the last, but he dug deep to get up and win. He looked like he had plenty of petrol left.
Yeah, he'll get. There's no doubt he will end up over 3 miles. It's just. Nobody knows what the ground's going to be like in 2.5 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time. We're in a lovely position that we can see. If it turns out that it is a really soft ground Cheltenham, then we may stay over 2.5. If it dries up a little bit, we could step up. There's no doubt in my mind that he will get 3 miles in time.
Well, sorry. So, Joe, I just want to touch Brendan Powell. I mean, he's matured into a top-level jockey now, hasn't he?
Yeah, Brendan Burt, I call him Burt. He came to us at 16 years old. He rode Native River in his first novice herd chases and all that. And he was just young, and he was riding plenty short enough for my father at the time, blah, 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 all history. But he came back to us, he never burnt his bridges, and he's come back. And now he rides horses how I want them ridden. I trust him totally. He trusts me. He's got the job, and he's a good lad. Very level-headed. He never gets off a horse and overhypes it or underhypes it, if you know what I mean. I quite like that. I don't want him to get off a horse and go, this is the next world beater, and then suddenly he gets beaten the next 3 times, and everybody's looking at us going, well, you said it was the next best thing, because that's not how we operate.
It's always, I'm sure he wouldn't thank us for it. I've always got this idea that Brendan Powell's young. He is young, but I've just checked there, 13 years since he won on Golden Chieftain. That's flown by, hasn't it, at the festival?
Yeah, crikey, that's mad, isn't it? He's had winners since as well at the festival. So, he's the right age now. He's the right age to handle. There is pressure in any of those jobs. So, he's the right age to handle it.
Right, let's just reflect on some of the greatest days. And in the Brocade Race in Silks, a horse who certainly stayed, you've mentioned him already. For everyone involved, just how special was Gold Cup Day 2018?
Unbelievable. I can remember where I stood and watched it. I can still remember the feeling of disbelief as it was. I remember the party that lasted for the whole weekend. It was unreal. We stayed at Cheltenham as long as we could, and then we went back to our local pub as long as we could, and then we weren't racing on the Saturday. We had nothing at Utopster, and we did it properly. We really, it was a special day, and this is as good as it gets. That is what I remind myself of. Dad reminds me of, Colin Tizzard, trainer Gold Cup winner, and although it was a big family thing, I'd quite like one in my own name.
Maybe, it might be Kripticjim. We'll see how we go forward. Just watching these incredible shots. Richard Johnson full bore to beat off Might Bite under Nico de Bonville. We're not even that long at that point since you packed up, really. It was, 5 years before you were winning a Ryanair on Q Card. So had you sort of in your mind just moved on in life, as it were?
Yeah, I started young. I had the Paul Nicholls job young. From sort of 26 to the last 8 or 9 years of my riding career, I was a big part of the home team. I rode, when Brendan Powell won on Golden Chieftain, I rode Hey Big Spender in the same race. I pulled up at the top of the hill and watched him win, and it was a kind of business decision that I stopped riding, because I didn't want me to hold back what the yard was doing, and we were on a major upward curve then. I knew I was always going to be part of it. Kim as well. So,
yeah,
it was a bit. It was like I'd done my riding, and it looked at it as a business sort of decision. It was the right time for me, and it was the right time for me to move back and get involved in the yard. And I don't mind admitting, the first 18 months was awkward. I was going to the races, you leg somebody up, and it'd been me being in full control to suddenly you leg up the jockey, you leg up Paddy Brennan onto Q Card, and you cannot do anything about it from then on. But you get used to it, and and certainly by the Gold Cup stage, I was a bit used to it.
Time is fast approaching to get to Dundalk. I understand that we've probably got the choice of Thistlecrack or Q Card. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to pick Q Card. Thistlecrack was an absolute aeroplane in the World Hurdle that day. But the Ryanair 3 years later, and I know there was that £1 million fall, but 2010, and you go and absolutely rip apart the champion bumper field. A 40-1 shot. Q Card, most people probably hadn't heard of him. As experiences go, was this right up there?
Yeah, this was as good a day as I had, to be honest with you. He'd won his bumper at Fontwell, and then the horse did things at home that we'd never experienced with training horses at home. Simple as that. And Dad had got a bit confident about him, to be honest, leading into telling people out hunting that he was going to win the bumper. I was in the streams of making money before I rode, because I wasn't in. It's probably the only ride I had on the Wednesday that day, so I would go and do box talks and thing. And I told the Gold Cup room at Cheltenham that to get on at 40-1. Then in the paddock beforehand, Dad said to me, he said, just like, he looked like a baby. He was a 4-year-old against 6-year-olds at Willie Mullins. He looked like a baby. He said look after him, but he bolted up, and special day, and a special day for the yard, because we were knocking on the door. We'd had a Grade 1 winner with Joe Lively, and we had some good horses coming through, but this just sort of took us to a whole different level.
Didn't he just?
What's the better feeling, Joe, riding a big winner or training one?
Training one, no doubt.
Richard Hughes says the same.
Yeah, the just everything that goes with it. The riding one was brilliant, loved every second of it, but you walk out the weighing room, you walk back in the weighing room. If you train a big winner, there has been something at some point that hasn't gone to plan. You've had a little headache, you've had a hiccup at some stage, you've had to get over it and get there. So without doubt, the most satisfaction training a horse.
He really did endure, didn't he? And he was top class for well over half a decade.
Yeah, I could do with one like him, Nick. He turned up. He won 8 or 9 Grade 1s. He'd win you $250,000 every year in prize money, and he had a trapped epiglottis, he had a nasty overreach, but his longevity is the thing, That's the opposite of Thistlecrack. Was very fragile. Native River and Q Card took all the racing, and you could run them 7-8 times a season and keep going back.
I don't know if this is some form of therapy, watching back. They're great days that you've had, but I know you want a bit more of it. So actually, we do have time for Thistlecrack. And this was 10 years ago in the World Hurdle. He was just different gear, wasn't he? This day and all through that period. Yeah,
I think this day he was he was a good thing. He did a piece of work 10 days before at home, and Dad and I stood halfway up the gallop, and I'll never forget it, he ate the gallop. He literally asked, we got steep gallop, and you can see him like with the hill now with that big round action, and we said, if we're lucky now, and he goes there, and everything's happens, he won't get beat. I'm very good friends with Scoo. I'm godparent to one of his children, and Scoo was full of confidence. He walked out into the paddock, he went, I'm going to do this, and to win a World Hurdle like that, it was unreal. And he had that little period then. John Snook, his owner, was really brave. Said, right, I want to run him in the King George as a novice. Yeah. And so in that 12 months, he was pretty much untouchable.
He really was, wasn't it? And I know they met and Q Cup, but just of that era, last question, who was the most naturally able, the most naturally brilliant of those horses in that era?
I could hardly recognise myself in that picture then. Who was the best? It's horrible to put on it.
It's like a favourite child, isn't it?
Yeah, Thistlecrack was right up there talent-wise, but he was fragile and difficult to train. He just had that little period in the middle. Q Card, from a 4-year-old to nearly a 13-year-old. And then Native River, the complete opposite to both of them, probably one of the slowest up our gallops, but tough. All three of them were tough. You have to, if you keep going to that level, those top class horses are mentally tough horses.
Well, we want you to find more of them. Joe, what an absolute privilege it's been. Thank you very much indeed. And if I don't speak to you before, very good luck with Alexei.
Thanks, Nick. Cheers, Martin.
Cheers, Joe.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.